and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brennan. With me for the very first time is our dynamic director. Say hi, dynamic director.
Hi, dynamic director.
Schaubach, thank you so much. This
what
is
a great
so exciting.
Intro.
Oh, thank you. Brennan yelled at me for stealing it, which, to be fair, I did.
I do it when I do the. We're doing these crew APs now, and I do it. You know, it's fun.
Yeah,
no one can do it as good as him.
Yes.
So he shouldn't be scared that we're taking from, like, we're just, it's an homage.
It's an homage, yes.
You know, they say, what do they say? Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Exactly.
There.
I also pointed out that he and I, in a very similar fashion, started it as like a silly bit, and then everyone expected it. And so then now you have to do it for the rest of your life.
It's true.
Oh,
it's true.
Long time coming.
Long time coming.
An interview I've been so intimidated for because you're a very kind and thoughtful man.
True.
And you like to have questions beforehand to make sure you can properly thank people, which is very nice. I
have, this is what I've decided I'm going to do this time, Jordan. I'm just going to Google if I need to remember somebody, and then you can choose to keep the Googling in, or you can choose to edit the Googling out. But yeah, that's what I've decided I'm going to do this time. So patience if I'm like, what was that? Yeah. And then we'll get to it, and then I'll say their name like I remembered it right off the top of my head. But yes.
I love it.
Unlike Brennan Mulligan, who I talk about often in these types of scenarios with people who are trying to get into the space and how does he do it, Brennan is a once-in-a-generation mind who is... I was just joking on set a couple of weeks ago. I was saying to him, you know, if you lived 100 years from now, people would rent your mind for a party. Like they would you know, what do they call it? Remote view in like your brain into theirs. And then they'd go to a cocktail party and they would have the perfect answer to every debate. They would remember everybody's name at the party. Like his brain is like a perfect example of a human brain. And so that's not me. I can't remember anything. In the moment.
Me either. I literally so this week, Kevin Stiller posted a video on TikTok where he's like, "Will you watch my boss?" And he set his phone down in front of Brennan, and Brennan, being Brennan, immediately launched into just like a monologue right away. But one of the things he said was that he had a imaginary friend named Curran, who was a tiger as a child. And in Worlds Beyond Number, there is Sir Curran. And I was like, oh my God, did we just learn like the origin of Sir Curran? Like, is that, and I made like a little stitch of it. And people were like, he said that in one of the talkbacks for Worlds Beyond Number. I was like, I don't remember. You can't, like...
Sorry. I thought I had a scoop. I don't have a scoop. Okay.
I have nothing. Speaking of Kevin Stiller, this is a question I didn't send you very intentionally.
Yeah.
In the UK and Ireland live shows, Brennan said, "We don't have Michael Schaubach's fancy little camera here. Was there a pang of guilt when he called it your little camera and not Kevin Stiller's little camera after all the work Kevin did to put that little camera together?"
Oh, gosh. I mean... No, not at all. Absolutely not. Everything is my idea. I'm a genius. I think that what I love about the show and what I love about the collaborative nature of the show, which is something that the leaders of the show establish, which is this is a collaborative nature, this is a collaborative show, is that I know why he called it Michael Schaubach's little camera, and why I don't feel guilty about that is because I started the show and that, you know, the reason why Kevin had the platform to go and figure out how to do that better is because Kevin is a genius and saw something that wasn't working and was like, I can do this better. But yeah, the reason why he was even sent on that mission was because I just like wild mind at the beginning of the show was like, we need to get down into these minis. We need to do something that nobody's doing right now. And so I wish he would have said Mike and Kevin's little camera. But I mean, when you're on stage, you're in a fugue state and you see whatever comes off the top of your mind. So I'll say the reverse of that. If he had said, I don't have Kevin Stiller's fans, I would have been so proud too. So, but I can see why that initially came into his mind that way. So I share it with Kevin, and I retcon whatever Brennan said. So Dropout, take this, plug it into that moment, and then I will now, and here we go, 3, 2, 1. Michael Schaubach and Kevin Stiller's little camera. And then we'll put that in there. And then now from
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know who was editing the live shows. I was going to say send that over to Eve Hines right away, but I don't think she was editing live shows. She's busy with VIP right now.
This is, by the way, I just want to say this is such a pleasure to do this show with you because you are name dropping like all of my like they're my kids. Like I have been part of this company in one way or another since 2008. So you're name dropping all of these kids that came to, like Eve Hines came as a assistant editor or an intern. I even forget. I think an intern, and then just elevated and elevated and elevated. And so yes, it's a great honor to hear you say all these names because, you know, I ran post production for a while, so the post people that have come in, you know, I call them my kids, and I care very deeply for them. And I brought a bunch of kids out from New York, and they've had a very successful life out here in Los Angeles. So anyway, it's great to hear these names being said because these are people that I love.
Good. I'm glad. Well, you are the 63rd person employed by Dropout in some capacity that I have talked to. So it's. And that's just individual. Cool. That doesn't count any like repeat chats. Like that's just the one time countings. It's very silly.
I love it.
Yeah. Look, normally I start with a question that I like to alienate the audience as much as possible, and I still want to do that. So please, would you tell me about poop?
Oh gosh.
Is that how you got started? Is that did someone at College Humor see Poop and they're like, that's our guy?
Well, Poop was 2011, 2012. So
You'd already been there
for 4 years. You know, Poop. I'll say this with a caveat. I'm not sure Poop stands the test of time. So if you look for it, if you can find it, good luck.
Yeah.
I won't take it down. I'll keep it up for anybody who wants to watch it. It's fine. Poop was based off the last scene. I just had a very funny. Poop is a short film that I wrote and directed in 2011 and then released to YouTube in 2012. I had a screening in New York City. It was very lovely. I was running post-production at the time. I was an editor and very much interested in directing. And I was like, why not do something that I want to do? I had this idea in my head about corporate apathy. And because up until the time that I'm an older employee of Dropout of College Humor. So when I joined in 2008, I was already 30 years old. So, and I had been working in some capacity in this business since I was 19, right? So I worked at my university in media production. It's something that I always knew I wanted to do. So I just started right away, like out of high school. And so I had all these experiences, these interesting experiences leading up to my time at College Humor that I kind of wanted, and friends who were in other industries. And it's such a weird, thing. They don't teach you in college about like, you are going to be laid off. Your friends are going to be laid off. There is an apathy when it comes to like your job, your livelihood. They're going to ask for all of you, your heart and soul, but then they're going to and then you're expected to give them like 2 weeks notice if you want to leave, but they can just let you go in a moment's notice. And so very early on in my career, when my first job out of college, actually, I experienced just a very alarming, sort of an apathetic approach to employment that I felt like I always wanted to put pen to paper and talk more about. And so Poop was my sort of love letter to corporate apathy and, just the way that human beings are treated in that way, which is just like bad. And so I had that I'm not going to spoil it, but I made the whole movie around the final scene, which I had this idea in my head. and I just thought that this idea was so funny. Um, but the story is based off my friend Cody's dad, who my friend Cody. I went to the University of Iowa, so I have a lot of, and I'm from Minneapolis, so I have a lot of Midwest connections, and that's where I was born and raised and all that. So my buddy Cody's dad worked at a I think like a granite quarry, and there was a crane. There's lots of cranes at a quarry, but there was a crane, and for like 3 months, every morning at the top step of this crane, there would be a poop, a human poop. And I always found that his dad was like, found it so intriguing, and went on like this mission to figure out who was the serial pooper. And he would tell the story and about how it was like, my dad never got excited about anything. He just found this totally exciting. And so I always found that really fascinating. And so that movie is sort of like a bunch of stories, like my stories and people close to me, their friends' stories, is sort of all put into one of like all the nutty things that happen in a workplace and some of the personalities that you meet along the way and all that. But Sam Reich plays the boss that fires everybody at the end on the phone, and so that's what it's about. So I'm not spoiling the thing that I made the whole thing for. But my friend Amir and it's a great cast. And
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, it's super fun. Yeah, you turned that into much more thoughtful than usually, because the alienation is that I asked something about something that basically me and the other person are the only people that know about, because I've spent enough time just like staring at your IMDb or website or whatever. But now, again, too thoughtful. Hey, here's one for you. Did you and Abria then just like super bond over Hawkeye Pride?
Yeah.
It has to be,
I
right?
was a surprise to me. I had no idea. I mean, we were different generations, but I think Abria sprung it on me, or we were just chatting, and I was talking about Iowa, and then we had this connection forever and ever, which was so funny. And everybody around us kind of had a moment. They were like, "What's happening here?
Yeah.
What's this?" Yeah, Iowa City and this and that, and the cornfields and the blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have family. They used to live in Cedar Rapids, which is
Okay.
just outside of Iowa City,
Yep.
which meant I spent a lot of time in very cold weather, visiting family at Thanksgiving and Christmas. But yeah, it's yeah.
I'm glad to not. I love my time there. I'm appreciative of my time there. I'm glad I don't live there anymore.
Super fair. All right, Titan Takedown. The trailer came out this week.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Here's a name for you so you don't have to Google it. Jenny Newman. Shout out.
Yeah.
Putting Brennan in real clothes. Just really exciting. It sounds like, from what I gather, this was Carlos Luna's baby, of like, I want a wrestling season. Is that how this came about?
Oh gosh, the wrestling season. I don't know. Yeah. I don't. It's something that we've been talking about for a really long time. Carlos was heavily involved, and it very well could have been. I don't know how those partnerships come along. They're extremely complex and out of my realm. I mean, there would probably been a time in the past when I was running post production that I would have been involved more in like the collab stuff, the co productions. But as it is now, like when it comes to like seasons of D20, I hear like, we might move in this direction, or we might do this, this, and this. But there are people that are above me that are working all of the deals. And I know that when we were sussing that season out, I was told pretty early on, and Carlos had a very, very cool, complex web of talent and people and all. He works in Millinote, and so his Millinotes are just beautiful, like works of art. And so he showed me kind of what he was thinking about for that season. And I think that the cast that came together is just absolutely amazing. I'm an 80s wrestler fan. I'm not a contemporary wrestler fan. Like at some point in time, like I had to kind of depart a lot of the things that I loved growing up to like completely
Yep.
focus on filmmaking and becoming like a director.
Mhm.
But it's always been something that's been near and dear to my heart. Like, I mean, I grew up with classic WWF 80s
Yeah.
wrestlers. Like that was
Yeah.
my thing. So it was really fun to meet that cast. And I knew that I was with like the creme de la creme. And, but I probably helpful that I wasn't like starstruck also, you know, so it's just nice to like meet people at the level and be like, hi, welcome. I know who you are. I studied who you are, but also at the same time, like I'm not a fanboy or anything. And I think that's very helpful when you're directing, which is like people just need to like have another regular person in front of them telling them that it's going to be okay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and you've directed every season of Dimension 20, right? Like that's you're
The only seasons I didn't direct are, I did not direct Shriek Week. Brennan and I were not involved in that season. I did not direct. There were some online ones that happened.
Mhm.
So Unsleeping City 2, I was not a part of. And I departed sophomore year, I think 5 episodes in because I was having a kid.
Super fair. To be fair, some of the cast departed sophomore year because they forgot that they were supposed to be at the studio to
Yeah,
record on time. A delightful season though.
these things happen.
Yeah.
But yes, for the most part, I mean, I believe I'm the only credited director. I'm not sure about that, but yes, you know, there wasn't any there wasn't anything other than sort of like a logic applied to my participation at that time. It was a crazy time for the world, for Dropout, for figuring out what the show needs and what capacity. So I think that the logic that was placed on those early decisions, which then got changed because it was like, oh, my contribution is pretty intangible when you come down to it. Like isn't a line item to like vibe and like the thing that I bring to every set that I direct for is like really hard to kind of put on paper until you're like with me or watch me work or you hear from other people like here's what he does and here's why he's important. There really isn't a line item for it. So I think the logic that was applied to it was like, are we shooting minis? No. Okay, great. Then I think the show will just kind of go on its own. And so now what I love about it is that we tried a lot of stuff for Dimension 20, even while I was still directing. We tried like 3 episodes in a day. That was nuts. You know, the APs being recorded later. Now they're, you know, so what I love about it is the fluid nature of it all. Obviously, I love to be employed, but I also love the fluid nature of Dimension 20 and how we're always like tinkering with it and like, could this work? Could this work? And it worked out to my benefit because after not having me for even the online seasons, they realized like, oh, actually, we see now. Sometimes you have to not be there to realize for people to realize like what it is that you bring to the table. So it worked out for me in the end because then I didn't have to like. It's kind of hard to describe an intangible, or it's kind of hard to sit in front of somebody and be like, "Here's why you. Here's how I can help. I can do it better now." But I think back then it was hard for me to articulate the thing that I brought to Dimension 20, which I think now is kind of turned into like the thing and the thing that everyone talks about, which is really amazing because I wanted to inspire other people that I work with and collaborate with, especially leaders. Like, here's the thing that I bring and I set the tone, and this is a bottom line. And I think that that's a hard thing for people to kind of see until they see it. That I hold that bottom line very preciously, which
Yeah.
is you don't not if you're toxic, you are not welcome at Dimension 20 because it only takes one toxic person to ruin an entire set. That could ruin an entire season. That could ruin, I mean, a brand for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And I don't have time for it.
Yeah. I will say, I would say, like, I've talked to a lot of folks. It was 2 years ago, I don't know, whenever Burrow's End was coming out, I talked to Rashawn, and
Yeah,
she had such high praise for you in terms of that before every session, you would come in and be like, "You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You belong to be here."
yeah,
And you had this like incredible message, and for her
yeah,
and for Jasper especially because it was their
yeah,
first time in the dome, it was so helpful to hear from from you, someone who'd been there for most of the entire run of this show.
Yeah.
How, I mean, not how important is that, but like at what point did you like come into that and be like, oh, I need to be the one that sets this tone of you're where you need to be?
From the very beginning, because I helped make this show. We did. This was there was there was a genre of this, of course, thriving, for God's sakes, and I still call Critical Role the gold standard, right? In my mind, it's the gold standard. It's the reason why Dimension 20 exists, frankly. It inspired Brennan. A lot of it inspired Brennan. And there's some technological things that advanced for us to be able to do this. But from the very beginning, it became clear that, and all of the work that I had done, even before College Humor, everything led, for me in my mind, looking back on it now, because hindsight's 2020, all of my experiences led up to Dimension 20 and being handed basically a blank slate with Brennan and who was going to be a part of that team and what it was we were going to make. And I realized very early on that, like with Rick Perry, we knew we were going to have an amazing set. We were going to have amazing minis. We were going to have that world completely built out, right? Like that we knew was covered. With Brennan, we knew it was going to be a great story. He had the experience. He had the he knew which of the pie that was the TTRPG pie at that time. He saw the slice that was missing, and he put us into that slice. Here's what's missing. And so then he handed me homework. He said, here's everybody that's making content in this space. Watch this and tell me what you think. And I said, great. We very tangibly and on camera, we need to showcase the art when we do the battles. We need to shoot the minis and retell the story in the minis so that people can get down there, so that people can see the craftspersonship that was put into the art. And then outside of that, in my own mind, I was like, we need to create a absolutely impermeable, safe environment for people to do long form improvisation and give their inner self, like I call it, like blood and guts, like give their guts, like we all give our guts to the show. No, they're not going to do that if they don't feel safe. They're not going to do that if there's a conflict outside of their world. If they hear an argument between me and the DP, or they're being treated poorly by a producer, like all of that will ruin the thing that is the thing that we're trying to capture on camera, which is like their truest self. Even if they're playing a character, like people just won't give that to you if they feel unsafe. And so it is a constant reminder to people who are coming to the Dome. You belong here. We're glad you're here. You were at Madison Square Garden. Yep. You heard Brennan's announcements before on the audio. I wrote that. And the first thing he says is, we're glad you're here. So that to me, like, and I think people hear that. And for some people, they're like, great, cool, thank you so much. And there are other people that are like, okay, thank you for saying that. Because that's the thing that I needed to hear. You just don't know what people need to hear. For Rashawn and Jasper coming into the Dome, there was a time for Burroughs End when it happened. That was the first season in the new Dome. Like they built the Dome, and I'd say they bolted the walls to the ground, which is when a production company bolts your set to the ground, that is a message to you that, like, not only do they want a ton more content, but like your show is good and we are investing in your show. And so walking into that new Dome that we had just like spent, many, many months putting together, and watching the looks on their faces, I hope it's not too much to say, but they both immediately started to cry. And to me, when I saw their emotion, because I was such in like, let's get the show started mode and like, let's make sure that everybody's good. And I watched them enter the Dome, and I was like, it was a really powerful moment for me, because then I got to see the Dome through their eyes instead of my eyes. And that it affirmed even more what our mission is inside the dome and outside the dome, which is this is like a sacred place. This is like a place where people can come and, like, for performers who have dedicated their life to performing, they can come and showcase everything they got. They got plenty of time to do it. They're not getting a line in a feature film. They're getting 2.5 hours per episode, multiple episodes. This is their time. This is the time when it all pays off for them. And we give them that safe space to do that. I mean, I don't think it gets any better than that. So yeah, it was. I love meeting all the new people that we get to meet on this show. All the new cast that we get to work with has just been like, I know everybody. It's like, I feel like I know everybody. You know, just like they come through our doors, and you form a real friendship. I call going to war like you go to battle and then they become your battle buddies, and it's really neat to. Anyway, yeah. It was special season. All the seasons are special, but that was the first one in the new dome.
Yeah, yeah. I will say Jasper and Rashawn have both publicly said that they cried when they got the dome, so you were not outing them. I believe Rashawn took a picture, like ugly crying, and shared it. So
it's incredible to see that reaction and have that. That was a reminder to me that I will always learn from this show, that there will never be a time when I'm not learning. This show will never feel old for me. It will never feel stale for me because I'm always going to keep pressing the creative edge of it. And I know that everybody that walks into that dome is also going to do that. So for me, like at that point, I knew that I was in for as long as they want me in, which I hope is forever.
Yeah. So fun. You mentioned Madison Square Garden. I was there, front row, no less.
You were.
I was not messing around. What an incredible show! Like what a incredible performance that was. Let me tell you some things that I have heard rumors of. The most expensive comedy show ever put on at Madison Square Garden. And one of the most expensive shows period ever put on at Madison Square Garden. At what point going into that, like how much of that were you involved in? Like how, I know you had like a live director who was doing like live to tape directing. Yes. That you brought in, like, who's done like the Oscars and stuff. Like you were not messing around.
No, they weren't.
But yeah, where did you come in on that, like, production? How much were you in the weeds with that?
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad you were there. I'm so glad that everybody was there who could come, and it was just such an amazing experience. My story with Madison Square Garden was at some point in time in the fall, there's all these. Nothing is simple. It might look simple from the outside, but nothing is simple. And so I want everyone who watches this to understand that there's a complexity to everything, and especially when you're doing a live show at Madison Square Garden. So I raised my hand in the fall because I was actually just going to go as a guest. That was the original plan. And so because I think that like, because we make the show and we're so busy with the show, it's kind of like, don't bother anybody who is making the actual show. We will go and just kind of do this other thing. And the talent that makes the show, that is a part of the reason why we're at Madison Square Garden, we're not going to overwhelm them. So when I realized that, I realized, okay, I'm going to raise my hand because I'm going to be helpful. It's exciting to do a show at Madison Square Garden. Amazing, an amazing credit for my career. Sure. But I really could have had a wonderful time in the box with all of my friends and scream my head off. That would have been a fine experience as well. But I raised my hand because I knew that I could contribute and that I could bring something to the show that people who are not part of the main show could, right? Like I knew that I could work in a lot of different capacities and put on a really, really great show. And so I raised my hand and I said, I'd really like to be involved. They said, we don't do live calling on the show. We roll our cameras and then we find the show and the edit. It is really not my expertise, or rather it wasn't. Um, and so they were like, we're going to get a professional live to tape director, but we want you to be co-executive producer, basically drive the creative of the show. And I was like, yeah, let's go. Right. So like Sandy Restrepo, who was our live to tape director, brought on her whole amazing team. And, we just became best buds in the process. And I shared the show with her and I said, Sandy, this is your show now. Like the thing that I say about Dimension 20 in any TV show is that the more people that say it's their show, the better the show it is. So we're all going to share this together. I'm going to take care of the things that you simply don't have time to do. Sandy had just come off of doing a New Year's Eve. I mean, Sandy is busy. Sandy is a very busy person working on giant shows. And so I immediately knew that my role in this was going to be package the whole show. And then when Sandy was ready to work, like physically come, I was going to then give Sandy the tour, and I was going to basically shepherd and make sure that Dimension 20 was the thing that everybody saw at Madison Square Garden, and Sandy was going to take care of that technical element, and follow the story and the technical element, camera placement, and how the overall story is going to be told. So it was a great collaboration, because it's almost all of this. It's almost impossible for somebody from the outside to be like, 3 months, learn everything about Dimension 20, maybe, but probably not, and have the care, have the quality of the if you know you knows moments, which I think is like a really important thing for our fans. And plus, like, I see all of our fans as like, they're like my kid, like everybody's my kids. And so we built this from nothing, from no fans to 20,000 people in Madison Square Garden. So I felt like that was my people. I knew how to entertain them. Right. So, for several months leading up to it, we worked with amazing artists, and they, 6 Point Harness, who is an animation company that we've been working with for a very long time. They used to do a lot of our animations back when it was College Humor Originals. They did all the fun character animations. And then we had an artist named Wolf who did our motion graphics and just knocked it out of the park. So it was like, okay, I on Instagram, I put up my vision for the Madison Square Garden show, so everybody can go check that out, because that's what I'm referring to right now, which is like my overall vision was a really zoomed out version of the show. Like when I think about starting a show and starting something from scratch, I always think about the end user experience. Like, how do I want people to feel as they're walking away from the show? And that helps me guide the very crunchy technical elements of the show. And so once I had that vision out of my brain and onto paper, then I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the show, which is basically like 80% of the show is 7 people sitting around a table and making each other laugh and doing amazing things like off the cuff and inventing and inspiring people in the world. And so the 20% was going to be the stuff that I was going to bring, which is like all the ancillary materials that was going to help fill the space around that and create exciting moments and make it feel like like an episode of Dimension 20, which is why we had the camera placements where we had them. Sandy's camera tech from her team, Bob Delarosa, was like, I watched your show. Like, this is like a man in his 60s that is like, has shot everything. And he came to me in the first meeting. He's like, so I watched your show, not the whole show. And I was like, yeah, that's right, Bob. He goes, no, but I watched an hour of your show. And I was like, yeah. He goes, I know where you want the cameras. You know what I mean? So like, so that's the like, I knew right away. It was like, that's exactly right. We want this to feel like the show, so that everyone who's coming in, they're coming into the dome and it's like they're in an episode of the show. And so then after that, it was like, okay, what could possibly happen during the show and what do we need graphics for? And then from the visual element of it, which I was able to sort of assign out and have people create those assets for me, I was like, okay, the thing that nobody can do for me is the music, is the oral storytelling of the space, which is so important to an episode of Dimension 20. And so I really just dug deep and I just started to visualize the flow of the show. There are parts obviously you can't anticipate, but I was like, it's one of these 20 things that'll happen somewhere inside here, right? But I can think about the intro and the intermission and the outro. And then Brennan was like, I want this to be wall to wall music. He said on Monday of the show week, I want this to be wall to wall music. It's very exciting. The show's very exciting because you get instruction like that, and with very little time, it's very fun, right? Like if any of that stuff sounds daunting to anybody watching this is not the show you want to be on, because this show is about having that really great idea and then how can we execute this well. So we ran through all these ideas. We had his Stream Deck so that he could cue a lot of the animations and stuff, because everything kind of goes off. Brennan, he went off to Critical Role. That's what I say. He went off to Critical Role, and they gave him all these toys to play with. And then he came back to Dimension 20, and he's like, I want those toys. We're like, okay, let's get you these toys. So, of course, for the live show, everything's better in that capacity when Brennan gets to cue it, because he can time everything out perfectly. There'd be a delay if we were doing this from behind the scenes. But the wall-to-wall music was a really interesting challenge. We had a meeting. He gave me moods that he thought he was going to get through in the storytelling, right? He had a general idea of how he wanted the story to go. And so I just went through Epidemic, which is our sound library, which is the sound library that we use for the show. And I just spent from Monday to Wednesday. I didn't sleep that entire week. I was in New Jersey. It was cold. That's where we're doing the pre-visualization
so
every
cold.
night. So cold. And every night I went and I just made moods. Battle, bad guy winning. Battle, good guys winning. Melancholic, celebratory, these types of feelings. And I just went through, I just like scoured the Epidemic library, and I made playlists for each mood. So like 25 songs. And then I put them in orders that I felt like they easily could crossfade to. And so we have this amazing, I guess I don't know what his official title is. His name's SJ. He's the one that did the European tour, and then he came over and helped us execute Madison Square Garden. He's the guy that Live Nation hired to initially do it, and then he came over. And I was telling him about Brennan's wall-to-wall music and how Brennan really wanted to play DJ. And what he's used to doing is just like pulling up his playlist when he's playing with his friends and then just manually crossfading and doing everything himself. And we're like, you're going to be doing a show at Madison Square Garden. You can't do all that, right? So this is like innovation in the moment, in the week. And so the idea was that he was going to have buttons for moods, and that he would press the button, which would send basically trigger a PowerPoint presentation that had scary. And then the person who had the playlist would then start playing the scary music, right? Because I knew that he was going to leave a genre and then want to come back. But when he comes back to that genre, we can't have it start over. So it had to be a person who knew what song he left that feeling on, so that when we came back to that feeling, we'd come to the next song. And SJ looked at it, he goes, I got a guy back in London who knows, it was QLab. He goes, he knows QLab. He can get into the back end of this, and he can actually make this program that will crossfade between the tracks within a mood, will allow Brennan to jump to another mood and remember where it was in the previous mood. So that he came in on like Tuesday, and by Thursday, we had a working version of this DJ system that Brendan was able to use for Madison Square Garden, which just like changed everything for the show. They didn't have wall-to-wall music in the European tour, and then suddenly wall-to-wall music that Brendan could DJ without having to DJ. Like, oh, I mean, it was so that part filling in the thing, and then me sort of deciding. I got decided like what kind of show this is going to be. there were all these rules about when we could start the show. So I had made a 2 hour music um, playlist that would lead up to when people could start to work again. There's all these union rules, right? Um, and so I had this idea in my head that I wanted to create like, um, my inspiration was for the we call the Omni Theater. It was our science museum in St. Paul, Minnesota. And when you walked into the Omni Theater, which is our IMAX theater, they had this like music that just kind of puts you in an ethereal mood. It was just kind of like moody and cool. And I was like, that's my inspiration. That's the kind of feeling that I want leading up to the show. And then, of course, building the excitement. So I have a 2 hour playlist that builds the excitement. And then I knew, Jordan, I knew that what I had a theory. And the theory was that our fans just want to go wild. They want to go, they want to, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, it's nerds, bunch of nerds, blah, blah, blah. No, I think that they want to feel like they're at a rock show. I think that they want to like scream their heads off and have an absolute blast about the thing that they love, which is long form storytelling, TTRPG, Dimension 20, like all the things that they love and are meaningful in their life. I bet you that they want that to be like a rock concert. So I opened it with a rock piece. I mean, obviously it would have been, if we had the money to do it, in AC/DC, but I found something that had that flair and flavor to open the show with, and then they could come out with, because it was like pyrotechnics and it's fire and streaming, you know what I mean? Like it was like Murph, that shot of Murph, like that Steadicam shot.
Yeah.
And the introduction to Steadicam, by the way, it's all Sandy's idea. Like Sandy was like, let's do Steadicam, and then Into the Box of Doom. But Murph with the Freddie Mercury vest, like
Yeah.
walking out, and that music, that rock, everybody could just cut loose and be proud and I needed to create a feedback for the energy with the music. If they're going to scream their heads off, I want that music to encourage them to be pounding and being like, yes, it is a rock concert. It really is. I mean, that was my explanation when I developed the show, which is like, the show really, you talk about the budget and blowing out the budget and all this. I don't really know about all that. Like if it's the most expensive, great, cool. But I said, this show is a rock concert. It's a comedy show. It's a theatrical play. It's improvisation. It's like, it's so many combinations of all of the things that Madison Square Garden has seen before, but they've seen it one at a time. This is a show where they're seeing it all together at once. And I'll say I had some friends sitting in the audience, and the security guards were completely baffled. They were just baffled by this show.
I was hanging out at security before the show started because they let me stay inside, which was great because it was cold. And they were like, this is crazier than the Fish concert. And I was like, oh boy, the security at Madison Square Garden is stunned at the nerds that are wrapped around Madison Square Garden to get inside. Like, it was delightful. All right, two easy questions for you. Does that mean Brennan had the button to set off the pyro on his controller there? And two, can you tell us who the other animatics were that we didn't get to see? That Six Studio, is that what you said it was?
Yeah, 6 Point Harness.
6 Point Harness. Who they gave that we didn't get to see?
No, I can't do that. Because I don't know. Because Brendan's got ideas, and
that's fair.
I can't. I'm dangerous with spoilers. So I just. But you would. Obviously, they were crowd favorites.
Yes.
So have whoever's watching this whoever it was. You're probably right. He got through a bunch.
Yeah, got a double.
He did not have his finger on the pyrotechnics. That would be negligence. That would be, I think, illegal. No, and something that for me, safety on set is just it's so critical. And so we had an amazing team, a pyrotechnic team that came in and just like that's their life. Like just talking about butane and how much butane we have, and like. The type of, part of the meeting was like the type of confetti, right? Like, well, you can't have this because we wanted Mylar because it was, with a nice silver spark. No, that's
Uh-huh.
that'll light on fire. So we can, okay, got it. But yes, no, we had an amazing team, and it was at the level at which we were working, at the quality of professionalism that we had working with us. Um, they're able to do their safety checks and balances very quickly. And so they can almost work off of a cue relatively quickly. They need a little buildup, right? So for example, the dragon flames, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the dragon flames was kind of an idea that happened in the moment. It was just like, how much butane do we have? We have a lot. How much do we use? We barely used any at the beginning. So we have these like dragon moments. Yeah, we have like dragon moments. This was the conversation then I went and told Brennan, if you do a fire breath, a dragon, fire, we can do the thing. Okay, great. I'll think of a moment to do that. And so then we were able to tell the pyro team, hey, we're going to do these moments. Schaubach is going to feel when Brennan is building up. Because, like, again, for anybody on the outside watching this, like, what is going on? Who's going to talk next? Where's the story going? Why are they rolling the dice? All these things that they shouldn't have to be bothered with because they're handling the other big things, putting the show on Madison Square Garden. So that's why I raised my hand. That's a great element where I was able to jump in and be like, I know exactly where this is going. I can tell when Brennan's about to, we have a shorthand after all of
Uh-huh.
these years. I know when he's building up to a cliffhanger. I know when he's coming to certain elements of the show. And so I could feel the building to the fire breath. And so that gave them, like 2 minutes to get ready, to look around and make sure that there was no security guards near it. You know what I mean? I have eyes on the whole thing. And then Brennan, he did it, and it was hot. It was really hot. I didn't
Yeah.
feel it because where we were under the stairs, but my wife, who was in the crowd, she was like, "That was really hot." Like,
Yeah. It was.
Lou was not exaggerating. You were in the
Yes.
front, yeah. You felt it too.
Yeah, it was hot. And I will say, there obviously no security guards were hurt. There was a security guard who was very startled by it, though.
Yeah.
Because he had his back to the stage.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So like he's just like watching to make sure we don't do anything suspicious. And then just like the hottest fire ever right behind him. He was just like jumping because I mean we all jumped because it was flawlessly executed.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I was like, did Brennan have a button? Because you didn't miss a beat of just like Brennan said it and it happened. Like it wasn't like Brennan was like rah, and then like 10 seconds later it was like Brennan as like his hands were going out, fire was coming up.
And that was me. Okay, he's getting ready to do it. He's okay. Dragon's coming up. Dragon breath's coming up. Dragon fire's coming up. He's gonna do it here. Hang tight, everybody. Get ready. It's gonna come up here. That was like 2 minutes before, and then and then Brennan, he does these things to help build the moment. And then it was a simple message back to him saying, "We have more butane. We got more. It's paid for." It's paid for. It's not going back to the store. So, I mean, or I don't know how they handle the recycling of butane. Maybe it does, but we paid for the whole freaking thing. So if you want to do another Dragon Breath, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was able to get the second one on video because the second time we're like, oh, okay, I can see this is coming.
You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now we know we're in on the bit now. But yeah, no one was prepared for that first one. Which was it was such a fun show. I was curious, like obviously there was also the element of incorporating, like you said, you wanted to feel like we were in the dome, so there was the element at the beginning where like everybody got their phones out and like hit a thing and like it rolled, and from what I've seen, that was like Carlos Luna on a laptop backstage being like, it's this, and then someone like hitting the button to like make it appear on the screen.
It was Carlos to me. It became very clear early on that like the whole dice rolling element was never going to be within the capacity of, like, there wasn't anybody on the team that came on to help us put on the show that was going to understand the dice rolling at all. So that Sandy was doing the cameras and the live switching and all that. And very early on, it became clear, like, it was going to be me that was going to get them ready to do the numbers. So I was either a roll at the table. So my cue to play back was like, get the numbers ready. And then when he'd roll it, I'd say like Q12, Q13. So she actually let me do that because she could then focus on sort of like the camera and the actions. And then I would focus on sort of like, the crunchier parts of the gameplay. But yeah, Carlos was right behind me. Sky was right here. And Carlos, basically we had this amazing company build us a dice rolling app and then handed it to us. They're like, here's how it works. And Matt LaForest was all about it and helping us with it. And so we just pulled up the back end and Carlos had it on a laptop and he watched it happen. We had a cutoff time for the number of rolls that we wanted. And then he went and he 8. And then I went Q8. That's how it was. It was really fun that way. You know, it was really, really fun that way. There was like a personal element to it that felt really just like, I don't know, felt live,
It was really different. Like, I've been to a lot of D&D live shows. I've watched a few on Dropout. And they, they're not bad. I don't want to make it seem like they're bad, but they are what they are. Like, it's a live performance that you're watching. And this was something special. It was a rock show that was also a D&D show. Like,
that's what I wanted.
It was such an incredible experience to be
the other
there.
Thing that I learned very quickly, but that I do want to hear more about because I'm learning from you as well. I'm learning right now. The other thing that I learned too was that it's a con. It's a Dimension 20 con. The stories of people who had never met in person, meeting there at the con or traveling to the thing that they wanted to celebrate and being in the same room with, like, it's such a disparate. What I'm learning about our fan base is like we have a lot of fans, but they're like spread out. And this is a way for them to all come together and be like, you're into this thing too, you're into this thing too, which is something that I'm looking forward to in the next live shows, which is just like making it like feel like that, Anyway, you were saying.
No. It was super fun. Like, I got to meet a bunch of people that I only knew from the internet. I got to meet online. I have like the very weird niche celebrity that I have pulled. So I also have a lot of people like Jordan or I know you. A lot of just like general like pointing. I mean, like, I know who you are. I've forgotten your name. And I'm like,
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a really special show. And I also say, like, because it was so dynamic, in terms of like you had a jib on a crane, like things were moving all over, like the Steadicam. Like, I'm so excited to watch the show when it comes out on Dropout, because there's so much. Well, first of all, as someone in the front row, I couldn't see most of their faces most of the time, which is fine. I knew where I was sitting. But like, I'm not only excited to see like the performers, but I'm also excited to see that element of production, because obviously I love production. You talked about the roundtable you recently did. What was at the end of Miss Meg 2? I've interviewed now. Count with you. I think I've interviewed everyone except for one person that was at that table. So I've talked to everybody that I can, because like I find production so fascinating, and like that one was such a special production. Are there elements of it that you want to incorporate moving forward into LA and Seattle and Las Vegas? Or do you think it's going to go back more to traditional, we can't have butane at every live show?
I'm not in charge of the budget. So this is what I say to them. I say, every phone call I say, hi, I am about to say something that I know will cost money. So if you say no to me, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. But I think that this thing would be really cool. Right? Like, and here's why. Like, I'm really good at like saying why I think it's a net positive to the production and why the fans will see something special in it. I try not to do anything frivolous or for the sake of it. I'm like, here's why it's important to our fans or Dimension 20 or the story. My goal for the next live performances is to make them all feel different and special. I really want them to feel like, oh, that was that show at that place. Oh, I wish I would have been there. I was at the one. Oh, you were at the one where they. So I want to surprise and delight all along the way. And because we have so many seasons to pull from, so many characters to pull from, like we have the ability to do it in story. So that I'm going to react to the to the very specific story for that location, and I'm going to build a show for that story. I want it to feel like a different experience every time somebody sees this live show. You
Yeah,
know,
that's super fun. Yeah, I technically have tickets for Seattle and Las Vegas. As
right?
you were aware, I don't live in either of those cities.
Yeah,
So we'll see if I'm at either of them.
I'd
But
love to have you there.
yeah,
As somebody who's seeing multiple ones, I'm excited to hear your feeling in regards to, like, it did have the parts that I wanted to feel the same felt the same, and the parts that
mhm.
were different felt fresh and new. Like, that's the idea. Like, there's no reason to do at our level, at the amount, like, Taylor Swift should go and have the same show 150 times, because um, because that she's giving the fans what they want, which is the shared experience. Oh, what city were you at? I was at that city. Wasn't it amazing when she? Yes, that's the feeling that they want when they go see Taylor Swift. I'm putting us in the same category as Taylor Swift. We're going to do four. So because of that, and Taylor's like, she couldn't do 150 different shows like that. Talk about expensive. My goodness, already it's expensive. So, and for everything that, for how busy she is, that's what she needs. But for four shows, yeah, like, let's make them all feel really special.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, now I want to get a ticket to LA too.
Come out to
Oh,
the bowl. I have an idea for the bowl. I'm just going to say it here. No, I'm
sure.
not. No, I'm not.
Oh,
No, I'm
come
not.
on.
No,
It's
because
fantasy high.
I don't want to.
Because if it doesn't happen, then you would be
Yeah,
sad.
it's not
And
has
yeah,
nothing to do with the story. The story's going to be amazing, and we'll create a great thing experience about that. But there's something that I'm planning that I hope that they allow me to do. So I haven't
oh,
pitched it
that's
yet. So yeah, if you want to come to LA, it should be. The Bowl is a classic. It's a
yeah.
classic place to be, and it's an amazing experience that we get to be. Uh, we get
Yeah,
to
I
go do a
mean,
show there.
yeah, Madison Square Garden followed up by the Hollywood Bowl. Not a bad 1-2 live show
Is
U.S.
this real?
experience.
Like,
Yeah,
is this a real life thing that we're like? Is this real? Is this all
yeah,
happening?
yeah. I mean, I talked to Rick earlier this week, and like he talked about like he came out and like obviously handed off the big D20 to roll
Yeah,
at the show, and just like he was like I couldn't hear because people were losing, like people were
yeah,
screaming
yeah.
so loud. And you said you wanted it to feel like a rock show.
I
You said
said, we're gonna have
do
this
you
giant
think?
Dimension 20, and I said, Brennan, you're gonna call for the Dimension 20. You're gonna call for the D20, and Rick Perry is gonna come out, and people are gonna lose their mind. And then Rick was like, because Rick,
Yeah,
yeah, that sounds cool, yeah.
yeah,
And then he got the orange hat, so that was
yeah.
Rick's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this in style. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
rock show.
and you were correct. People did lose their minds. Like, and
Come
that's one of the
on,
things that I love about Dimension 20, and I'm assuming you have a massive hand in this, which is there is an element of if this was any other TV show, I wouldn't know who Rick Perry was because, and maybe I would because he's like the head of the art department, but I wouldn't know like Kelsey Hunter and Alison Gondek and
yeah,
Casey McGeorge, and I'm
yeah,
not going to list everyone that I've talked to and know from the show, but that like not only do obviously like you have the roundtable where like you talk to production or whoever talks to production, but there is a concerted effort after every battle set. Brennan starts the adventuring party
yes,
with a list of names,
yes,
and it's the best thing for me because then I just go through and I'm like,
yeah,
am I
and then you
following
know
all
who
of
you're
these
going to
people?
interview.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like. How much of that was your hand? Like
Yeah,
how like that feels like you had a very
yeah,
significant hand in that.
oh yeah. We, I've never worked in the mainstream. I never I have never gone to like a giant studio lot and worked on a project ever. I've never done that. Um, it's just I know I joined up at College Humor in '08, and they kept entertaining me and creating new things that I wanted to be a part of. And so I've always worked on the fringe of the entertainment. Like, my entire career I've had to explain to my relatives at holidays like how I make videos for the internet, and that to this day are still disappointed I don't work on NCIS. Right? Bless the people that get to work on NCIS. They're the most popular people at their holiday family holiday gatherings.
Yeah.
That show is sort of universally known by literally all of the older people. So yes, mentioning, I said, Rick, we started, I don't remember what season we started to do it, but get all the names together. And Brennan, you're going to read all the names. Getting as many people on camera, the credit is something that I was like, I like to work in the thing that I'm being dealt. And if I'm dealt a niche market outside of the mainstream, then I'm going to do something that they just simply wouldn't have time to do. And quite frankly, like, older people don't, it's all magic to them, and they do care, I guess they do, but I'm not trying to put something on the mainstream audience. I'm just saying that they really just want to focus on the people that they see on camera, which is like this whole celebrity fame thing that it's relatively new for humans. Like, what famous was for like cave people, like what it's new for us, and especially now where there's avenues to an audience. Here, you're doing the show, you went to Madison Square Garden, people knew who you were because you do these interviews, you are in your where you live, and you're able to access an audience. I was like, we have a niche audience. We have people, a lot of our audience are people who also make their own thing. I think that they're interested in who makes the show. Honestly, I don't really care if you're interested. You're going to learn about the people who make the show, because the show doesn't get made by any one human being. It gets made by a group of people, and everybody comes. We don't have, this is what I tell, a lot of the new positions that we have from season to season are like the PAs. It's just because we employ a large pool of PAs that drop out, and so sometimes they're on other shows. And what I say to them was like, we don't have frivolous jobs here. So perhaps your title on this is production assistant, but you are a part of the storytelling. You have an active hand in how the story is told and how well that story is told by doing the job that you're doing. And so it's my great pleasure. It's my great pleasure to cast the light on to people who normally would, outside of the fringe niche storytelling in mainstream network television. It is my great pleasure to give them the stage and say, look at this person, look how amazing they are, look what they bring to the story, and look how much it's better because they're here. And I'll do that for as long as I possibly can. For as long as I possibly can. This is not any one person's show. This is a group effort. And these people are just so freaking talented. Like, I just like walk into we're talking about art. I walk into the art office and I'm just like, whoa, it's so cool. Everything they do is so cool. They're like the coolest. I'm like, am I cool enough to be here? Like, can I just hang out a little bit?
Speaking of cool, we'll wrap up here in a second. I know I've kept you over time, but I got to talk to Denise Valentine this week.
Yeah,
she took our call at an IKEA, which is the coolest thing I've ever seen another human being do. She was just sitting at a desk. People were walking behind her, so confused. But yeah, a full hour just sitting with me, chatting.
So good.
In an IKEA. So good. So deeply profound as well. And I like, she was always on my list because, like, obviously incredibly talented. But it was after the adventuring party that she was in where, like, I started getting specific requests from people. They're like, you have to talk to her. You have to talk to her. Which is also, like, that's gotta feel good. Like, as one of the people in charge of the show, people reach out to me and they're like, please talk to, and they name a crew member from the show. Cool. And the answer is always, I'll do my best. Like, it was like, never stop blowing up. People are like, talk to the animators. And I was like, look, they don't know who I am. I will try to get their attention, but you have to understand it's just going to be me getting in their DMs, which I did, and I talked to both of them. But yeah, it was it's such a joy, such a treat. Thank you so much. This has been. We barely talked about any of the things that I sent you questions about, which is not a complaint.
So let's call this. Look,
forever.
Let's do this part. This is part one.
Part one. Great. I love it.
Because there's more people that we need to talk about. And Denise Valentine is one of them, who has been with the show since there's a few day oneers still left. Obviously, the Intrepid Heroes, all the Intrepid Heroes, Brendan Lee Mulligan, myself, Rick Perry, and Denise Valentine. We're all first day, developed the show together.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to have her there. And I'll end by saying that I talk to a lot of people. Obviously, I talk to everybody on set when we're starting the show on the first day. I talk a lot. They don't let me talk while they're rolling. That's the only time when I'm not allowed to talk. Outside of rolling, I am talking. I am a motor mouth. I am constantly checking in, and you and all of these pieces and this, and then spinning a yarn and telling a story about old college humor, which was just a lot of fun, and all this stuff. But I walk into, because HMU is another team that, with Denise at the helm, depending on availability, she really tries to get people in that, understand the assignment, are available, and also match the vibe. Like for Denise and finding her team, she's very particular about making sure that the people that she brings in are people that can work within our environment and will not bring toxicity. It's a whole interview process with her, and referral process that she gets from her friends. So she puts a lot of care into the HMU department. And so I walk to that department and meet anybody new that's new. And even if you've been on the multiple seasons of the show, I give them the same speech, which is, "I'm glad you're here." Right? Everybody gets that. "Good morning. I'm glad you're here," every day. And I encourage everybody to do that. If you work with people on a regular basis, "I'm glad you're here." It's just nice to hear. And sometimes people just need to hear that. You don't know who needs to hear, "I'm glad you're here." So just say it to everybody. And the person who needed to hear it heard it. So it's 100% chance that the person that needed to hear that heard that if you say it to everybody. When people land at HMU, that's normally the first place where they land for talent. And they come in all different ways. And sometimes they've just come from the worst job they've ever had. Who knows what it is they've got going on? They need to, at some point in time in the next 60 minutes, go to a dome and sit down and try to be funny and entertaining for 3 hours. This is the first point of contact for talent, is HMU. This makes them, and everybody's a critical department, but this makes them extra critical when it comes to establishing the vibe and getting people prepared to do what I call the hardest job in entertainment, which is be on a season of Dimension 20. Truly, I mean, come on. You're out there. You are out there, and you have your own wits, your experience, and the love and support of the people around you to do the thing that they do. Like, it's just unbelievable what they have to do. So when they sit down at HMU, this is a very critical time in that I make sure they know how important they are, how special it is for them to be there, and how amazing the work that they do is outside of the look, which is always amazing. This person came to my set relaxed, jovial, ready to play because of the experience they had in your chair. And that department and that experience is led by Denise Valentine. And I'm just like beyond lucky to have her on Dimension 20, that she says, yes, I want to be a part of the show, that she has so much stake in the show, that she is a leader in the show, and that she helps create the show. I'm just so lucky to have her. So it's very funny that she did the interview at IKEA.
So funny.
I mean, you can't, the mind is, you see the inner workings of the genius when somebody, I mean, I was like, oh, I'm going to blow Jordan away by having, the Dimension 20 museum, but now hearing that she did it at IKEA, I can't even compete.
No one can.
When it comes
you
to
can't.
Denise, you don't. You just sit back in awe.
Yeah. Absolutely delightful. Schaubach, if people wanted to go see, you said you posted some things from behind the scenes of Madison Square Garden. Where can they find you on the internet?
This is where they can find me on the internet. I barely do social media. I'm so sorry. But the things that I post are Dimension 20. So have fun. And you can find me on Instagram. It's just _Schaubach_. I think you can search my name as well. I don't know how searching works. I'm also on Blue Sky. I have a few posts on Blue Sky. Go search Michael Schaubach or Schaubach on Blue Sky. That's it for me. That's all I
Yeah,
got. I have a
that's perfect.
TikTok. I don't put anything on it yet. Maybe I should. I mean, if you think
Yeah,
I should, I'll put some stuff on TikTok.
people love behind the scenes stuff, and
But
like the only issue for you is then you have to remember like four
it's
months after you
terrifying.
shot it on your
This
phone
is why,
to
like, if
actually
you
upload it.
look, it's like, here's where they're putting the board in for Unsleeping City, like
Yeah,
posted last week.
yeah.
I'm very dangerous when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I try to just, I have pictures from the very beginning. I mean, I have video um, from the very first session that we had at David Kearns's house. I took full because I was testing camera angles. So I have a good bit of that recorded. So there's lots of things that are just really fun that I have that I'll slowly give out to the world as time goes on and at the speed and cadence at which I think is safe to do. I also want to do a quick plug for DesiQuest. You can see here I
Oh
have
yes,
Boccia,
yes.
the 3D print of
Also,
Boccia. We're doing,
you're directing DesiQuest. Yes.
yeah. So please tune in, watch that. It's been an amazing experience to be a part
just
of that
fired
as
up
well.
the holiday special. Is that
Yep,
what?
the winter
Right?
special.
Yes.
Yep, three
Yes.
episode winter special. That was a lot of fun. We got to shoot. We got to shoot at the studio where they shot 90210. We had a
Very cool.
giant warehouse studio and our tiny little set in the middle. It was really fun.
That's very, very fun.
So anyway.
This has been absolutely delightful. I don't know how to end an interview. I'm just going to hit stop recording.
Great. Bye, everybody.